shot at saying your name. So, doctor, why don't you pronounce your name for us?
Kunjana Mavunda.
There you go, folks. You are a tropical medical doctor. You're also a pulmonologist, and your specialty are children, pediatrics.
Yes.
All right? And you work with a fine organization, and it's
Kidz Medical Services.
Kidz Medical Service. See, I got it right on that one. All right, simple enough for a Miller. All right, so you were here 6 weeks ago or 7 weeks ago, and things have changed a lot for all of us in America, right? In this relatively short period of time, although it seems like forever. So let's talk about COVID. Let's talk about the vaccine and all the other things that you want to bring up. We have 25 minutes to make this happen. So take it away, Doc.
Okay. So things have changed. Fortunately, our numbers are going down. The COVID infection numbers are going down. The hospitalizations are going down. And deaths are going down. And now we have 3 vaccines that have been approved by FDA to give to people to fight COVID. When the vaccines first came out, the first one that came out was the Pfizer vaccine. That's a vaccine that's a 2-shot vaccine for proper immunity. It was given out to hospitals initially, hospitals that had refrigeration capabilities that were needed. Pfizer needs -80 temperature for storage. So that automatically limited who could get the vaccine. Then the Moderna came out, and that also is a 2-step vaccine. Both the Pfizer and the Moderna are vaccines that use a completely new technology. It's called the mRNA technology. And, when I first started hearing about the vaccines and how they're doing this so fast, and within a year, we have the vaccines available, I was really hesitant. It's like I told my staff, I'm not taking that vaccine because it's too fast. We, in our office, we do vaccine trials. And generally, to get a vaccine approved, once it has been made by a pharmaceutical company, it takes several years to get it into the arms of people because they have to do phase 1 trial, phase 2 trial, phase 3 trial. Phase 1 trial is to see what dose is the right dose to give. Phase 2 is to see how people react to the vaccine. And then phase 3 is when a lot of people get the vaccine. And then they follow the people to look at the side effects and then how effective the vaccine is. So there are questions about the effectiveness of the vaccines, which I'll talk about later. And so it takes many years. In this case, in the COVID vaccine, there's a couple of things that have happened. One, there were outbreaks that a lot of people would have heard about. The Sars outbreak that happened maybe about 2 decades ago in Hong Kong, and it rapidly spread from Hong Kong to many countries and had a high mortality rate. That was controlled very effectively, quickly. And then there was a MERS outbreak, which a lot of people may not have heard about. But that's also a coronavirus. So both the SARS and the MERS were coronaviruses that just showed up and caused a lot of disease and death. So the mRNA technique was something that companies had started working on 20 years ago. And since all of these, the SARS, the MERS, the COVID, they're all this coronavirus family, what they were able to do is the SARS vaccine that they had,
That they
they
already
were
had prior to this outbreak.
they were quickly able to change the protein of the virus to make it effective.
So they didn't have to go from ground zero. They already had a lot of
They
the
already
components.
had a base. So that's what helped a lot. And then with the president's warp speed project,
Yes.
that really helped. You know, making vaccines is very costly.
So let's talk about that for a second, because a lot of people want to know. Usually, it takes years from the time you'd start until there's a solution. When pharmaceutical companies create this, at that point, are they anticipating a need, or is there already a need, and then you have to wait 3, 4, or whatever number of years?
I guess it's both. And I'll go back to that in a minute. But remember that when they start working on something, and this is whether it's a vaccine or a new medication, they come up with a molecule that they think may work, but a lot of those don't make it to the humans. So they're taking a gamble as to what to make. And that's part of the reason that the vaccine trials are so expensive. They're expensive because there's a lot of research and development that goes on before.
You mentioned several times they were expensive. So what does that mean to us folks from South Miami? What does that mean when you say expensive?
Well,
here goes, folks.
For us, thanks to the government, the vaccine is free. But for the pharmaceuticals, the advantage was that they got money right from the beginning to go do all the trials. So, for example, a couple of years ago, we were doing a trial in the office for a molecule it wasn't a vaccine, but it was a shot that you give babies to prevent them from getting sick from a virus that can kill them. That vaccine, that medication itself, just the medication, costs about $2,000 per dose. But that's the cost currently. Prior to that, to develop that product, and that's an example where so many companies have failed. It's a medication for a virus called respiratory syncytial virus that kills elderly people and also kills young babies or causes a lot of morbidity. It's a virus that people have known about from the 50s. And in the 50s, they had done a trial where they gave the vaccine to the baby because they developed a vaccine. They thought that the vaccine was really good. They gave it to the babies. And what they found was that instead of protecting against the virus, when the baby eventually got the virus, the baby had more problems. And that has happened with another virus called dengue virus. So that's why the phase 3 trials, which are very large, where you need thousands of people, that the pharmaceutical companies has to pay the researchers, the data collectors, the people that make sure things are done properly, and the patients. It has to be millions of dollars to come to the
So in this case, what the U.S. government did say, we're going to pay you. Don't worry about the money. Just make this happen.
Yes.
So far, there's 3 companies that have made it. So far, all right. 2 of them, you need 2 doses. There's another one that is 1 dose. Yes. Are there other companies that are in the process of making them?
AstraZeneca. AstraZeneca already has a vaccine that is available, has been approved for use in other parts of the world. It will get approved here in the future. And then there's a lot of other companies. There's Chinese companies that have 3 different kinds of vaccines. There's a Russian company that has a vaccine, and then there's an Indian company.
How long have you been involved in tropical disease?
Since '97.
All right. Here's the big question. Did you ever suspect there might be something along this magnitude?
We've always talked about pandemics. We've always said that there is going to be a pandemic that's going to happen in our lifetime. So
Is this the
people,
one?
this is
Is this
the
it
one.
for a while?
But the good news is that what we're learning from this pandemic, it's going to help us in the future to prevent other pandemics because we will have pandemics. And that's the important thing to realize. There are viruses, especially viruses, but some bacteria, but mainly viruses that are circulating that can jump into the humans and cause pandemics. So this is just one pandemic that we have. There's possibility of others in
So
the future.
when you think about the process of taking this from not quite zero, but it's right to get it and to get it into an arm, and to think of all the people, all the mindset, all the billions of dollars that were there, and the logistics of getting it from wherever it comes from, magically Federal Express or however it gets to us, and then to the local end, it really is tremendous. That if there was ever a time that we ever felt together with mankind, all right,
Mhm.
and to have an experience where it's all very similar, all right. I don't want to say identical, but very very similar. This is it. It's not like, as I was saying the other day, it's not like the Super Bowl where 20 million people watch it. We're talking about billions of people, all right, are involved with this and all concerned about the same thing. Are you going to get sick, and what the long-term effects? Are you going to die from it, your family members, et cetera? So it certainly has this gigantic impact. If the government was not paying for this, how much money would the drug companies have to have invested
Billions.
billions of dollars?
Billions.
So people want to know, what's the retail price of a shot of the double dose if we had to pay for it? What do you suppose it might be?
Knowing experience with other vaccines that I work with, it would have been at least $300 per shot. I wouldn't be surprised
Yeah.
if that's what it is.
So overall, and again, you're the professional, you've been around this. How would you say that the rollout and then the end result of people getting vaccinated has been?
The rollout has been good. It could have been faster, but it has been good. I was a little bit disappointed that I was not able to get a vaccine in my office to give people. But thinking back, I think that they did make a right choice of giving it to the pharmacies and the hospitals. Um, my concern was that their hospitals are uh, acute care facilities. They're used to treating people when they're sick. They rarely do preventive stuff. So I was a little bit uh, worried that they might not be able to be as fast as possible, and especially because at the time the vaccine came out, the hospitals were full, the ICUs were full, there was a shortage of nurses, etc., in the hospitals. So then to have to take hospital staff to do the vaccine, that was a logistical problem. And I have to say that the hospitals have done amazing. I am so impressed with Jackson. Um, they've been really good. They've been going out into the communities. They're doing a good job. And then they were the ones that got the Pfizer vaccine in Miami-Dade, and then they distributed it to other hospitals. But they've done a great job.
It's really extraordinary. I know in the beginning some people were complaining, no, this is a big deal.
It really is.
And to line this up, and we were all hoping, 2 months ago, okay, one day it's going to be at the local pharmacies and going to be able to do it, and the way the state has handled it and locally is tremendous. We had some folks on the other day, and perhaps what percentage of seniors in Dade County have received vaccine?
I am not sure, but a significant.
58%.
That's what I was going to say.
Right.
Yes.
So you had mentioned at the beginning you didn't want to take the vaccine. So were you among the vaccine hesitant, but for different reasons?
Initially, and my main reason was that how can you have a vaccine available to the public within a year, a completely new vaccine available to use in humans, and so I was really concerned about the safety profile, etc. But then, as I read more about it, the way they did it was done properly. They have enough data. They continue to collect data, etc. So it has been done properly. And then the other thing to remember is that the COVID virus affects people differently. There are a lot of people who have absolutely no symptoms. Sometimes they find out they have it just by accident. But then there are others that get very sick, obviously,
Yes.
and end up in the ICU. And sometimes it's hard to predict. Like sometimes you have healthy people that get so sick. And the thing that worried me the most is that it can attack any system in your body. And so I was thinking, like, if I get a neurological problem with if I get infected with COVID, then I have to retire and go to a nursing home.
So I read just a little bit of it where some of the phase 3 was maybe 30, 40, 50,000 people. Is that a lot, or is that normal when in a phase 3 testing?
It was more than that.
Okay, but so it was a lot of people.
It was a lot of people.
Right.
It was a lot of
so
people.
For the folks that are hesitant because they're afraid that something's going to happen to them, how many millions of people have received either one injection or tens of millions?
Millions.
So and we know there's some people, about 7% of the population, that is needle adverse, all right? And so that might be holding some of them back and using the excuse or the reason, I'm afraid I might get sick from it. But statistically, right, it's less than insignificant. It's this tiny
Yes.
part, right? So, but we still have lots of folks, and some I know that so far have not done it and not cared to do it. I hope they consult with their family and their physicians and look at the figures and say, gee, if I get it, what's going to happen? Well, but conversely, if they don't take the injection? There's some people that don't do vaccines at all. What would happen?
They have a higher chance of getting the infection. There's always something called herd immunity, that if enough people are vaccinated, and they say that if 70% of the people are vaccinated, then it decreases the prevalence of the virus in the community. The problem is that the virus is constantly evolving, and we've seen that. Recently we've had the UK strain here, the South African strain, the Brazilian
it's like
strain.
The flu.
So
flu vaccine every year changes a little bit.
So they're changing. So even when we get herd immunity, those who have not had the vaccine, they are more likely to get sick with it. Also, it's like Dr. Fauci says, I can't remember exactly what he says, but if the virus has a host that allows it to multiply in the host, then that virus has more of a chance to mutate. So if you don't get the vaccine and you carry the virus in your nose or throat, then the chance that the virus can mutate are higher. And then you're doing a disservice not only to yourself, but also to your family members and your community, because now you're allowing yourself to have the virus mutate, and then you'll transmit the virus to people. So
one of the things that has occurred, and we've all become acutely aware of, and for years people have been talking about the haves and the have-nots. The disparity today, I don't mean at this moment, but generally speaking, has never been so apparent as far as people that were okay and people that were not okay. And I must commend the governor and Miami-Dade County and the county commission to make sure that the people that had the least amount of access to this, that it was taken to them, right? Because that's really important. And it's not just an obligation, it's a responsibility that you have to do that, right? Because we all saw those food lines, right? And we saw those little kids that were down there and their parents. And last week when the folks in Florida City said, come on, we got some left over, good for them. And in Miami-Dade North, they said, yeah, we know what we're supposed to do, but we have the need and the people are here, right? And so it looks like that very shortly that if you want it, you'll be able to get it.
Yes, within the next few weeks.
All right. So 2 months ago when we got together, did you think it was going to be like this?
No.
What did you think?
I did not think we would get so many people vaccinated so quickly, and for for the government, whether it's federal, state, or local, for them to mobilize so many distribution centers to make it
Yes.
easier for the people to get the vaccine.
So again, the figures the county's using, it was 58% of seniors. Well, when you take in, all right, the 20 or so percent that were hesitant, that's just about all. In Jackson, they had it nailed. They said, okay, it's 65 or older, and they saw the lines diminishing.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
When I went, there were 300 people in line. All right. And it was like, and those lines were diminishing. So now it's working up. And I think it was, they said, okay, if you're 18 or older with conditions and you don't need a doctor's note, thank goodness.
Yes.
All right. Because it's like, we'll recognize what's going on. And if you want to tell us a story, go ahead. But we don't want you to get so frustrated that you can't get to your doctor. And the poor doctor's overwhelmed. Imagine, I can't imagine some doctors probably getting hundreds of phone calls. I need this, I need this, I need this. So it really says that it's well underway.
It really is.
And I heard the president last night said by May 1st, which is 6 weeks away, that if you want it, it's going to be there.
Yes. And that's why we all need to get it. Some people, the short-term side effects of the vaccine, or the little bit of fever or muscle ache or headache, that is to be expected. Just what I tell my patients is when you get the vaccine, just try not to do too much for the next 24 to 48 hours, just so that you can relax. And we do that with the shingles vaccine.
Yes. So, and when I had my second shot, I sort of forgot that I got it. That I think the next day I'm not feeling good, and then what's going on? And then I finally said, oh, you had the injection, and as soon as you could couch it like that, then it was okay. And I think the next day that it was okay. 85% of the people here in our building here have received it, and so everybody's still wearing their mask. And I go, okay, you had it, I had it, and okay. I said, when do we get to have a conversation? Well, I'm not sure when. So it's going, I said, well, in a month from today, all right, will you feel better? Then finally, we're all sort of trying to figure out the right way to do that, all right? And every organization have to figure out the right way for them, all right? And my wife got the injections the other day. So finally, after a year, right, and a year and a quarter for us, right, it's returning to some routine. I do want to say that everybody responds a little differently. When I had a pedicure done here at the office a few months ago, my wife locked me out of the house. Locked the door. I said, I have a key. She says, I locked it from the inside. And so, Wayne, if you're listening, this is what my brother Grant did. He went around the office, said, Susan, this is Michael's new kitchen. This is his living room. And this is his bathroom. And this is his bed. She said, put his name on the bed, right? So I learned to be very patient with people, because people get scared, and understandably. A friend of mine, I think he's 72, he got COVID, and he said, Michael, it's a disease of loneliness. He says, if I would have been really sick, I would have gone to the hospital and maybe died by myself. I'm at home, and I'm wondering if my caregiver is going to get it. And so we had a lot of text conversations over the years, and we did a lot of stuff for many years. And these texts back and forth for a period of about a month, and going through the phases. And we know there's a lot of depression and anxiety that goes along with this. I've heard figures 30% that admit it, all right, that admit it, right? Doc asked me, how you doing? I said, compared to what? I said, you know exactly how I'm feeling. I just want to know if bipolar, is that 2 words or is that 1 word, right? Oh, it's getting better, all right? But we see that there are people that are struggling with emotional and social issues now. What do you suggest that they do? So you got the moms and dads bringing the little kids. What should they do?
You mean as far as
the parents that are wondering,
know? So the school age kids are having problems because they can't socialize with their friends, etc. It's been very difficult for parents. They have to work, they have to be teachers, they have to take care of the kids. The only thing you can do is try to stay active and talk with each other, support each other. Um, we're lucky here in Florida that we have a lot of outdoor space. So, going to the parks or just by the water or something, the fresh air definitely helps, and the sunlight, etc. It's much harder for people in the north where they
Yes.
have short days, cold, they have to stay indoors. Um, but just communications and talk, and then try to find professionals who can help you if if you
So,
really need
so
that.
we're going to help this conversation. You can call 211, all right? They'll be able to direct you. You can call the National Suicide Hotline. You have your family members, you have your parents or your uncles or your aunts, you have religious leaders, all right? Don't do anything stupid. Seek out support, all right? And say, this is how I'm feeling, all right? And this is what's going on. And especially as we get out of this, we know that there's a lot of post-traumatic stress that's going to kick in because, and I've never been in the war, but we know what that happens. They're in the war and they're okay and they get bombed and all this stuff. And then they go home and 2 months later, they go, oh my goodness, I survived. All right. A lot of people died, 500, almost 50,000 people, affecting hundreds of thousands of families and millions of families. All right. And so there's certainly going to be left over for a long time with that. So if you need help, speak to your physician, all right, and including you. So if the parents bring in the kids, all right, uh, to talk to your docs, all right, to just tell them this is what's going on. And
Yeah.
we're so happy that you've spent your life and treating people, and especially now the last year has certainly been a learning experience for all of us in the world, and especially here. And my hats off to all the medical people, to the dentists. Oh my goodness! All right, and the people that had to go to the doctors. All right, and to the hospital people, the nurses. There was a show on one of the radio stations. Traveling nurse. He said he saw
Yes.
3,000 people. He
Yes.
said, and he says he put up this wall. He says, but all right, he knows what's coming,
Hmm.
all right, which is the trauma, and it doesn't, whether it's 500 people or 5 people, and it was a tough time for everybody. So
And then don't forget the teachers and the frontline
yes,
workers, the people that work in the grocery stores, etc., the teachers that have to go back to school.
it certainly gave us a new appreciation for people, all right,
Hmm.
wherever they are, that continue with their lives, and we
Yeah.
figured out how to do this, and never before have we given so much respect to the frontline workers, all right.
And I think overall we're becoming more empathetic. Like we care about people more. I feel like it's like before it was just me, me, me. Now we are able, like we're available for other people. That's what I find with my
Well,
friends and
Doctor,
family.
you bring up a really good point when you say I want to thank the doctors and the nurses. What about the respiratory therapists, the physical therapists? What
Hmm.
about the person who serves the food and cleans the floors and that helps drive your car around? Those people that can't say we ignored, we never gave too much thought to it. They were there this whole
The,
time.
the
This whole
silent
time as we
workers.
were huddling at home trying to protect ourselves. Meanwhile, if you needed to go somewhere, that they were there.
Hmm.
And it certainly, in my place, has reminded me that we're more the same than we are different, and we all have families, and we all want to take care of ourselves, and and have a better tomorrow. So we're going to wrap this up, but I would like you to talk to straight to which camera, Tommy? I'd like you to talk for a moment about the future, and then I would like you to talk to some young person that's thinking about going into medicine. Take it away, doctor.
I think the future is brighter. It's going to be brighter. Um, we're going to be healthier. The habits that we have learned about hand washing, um, isolation, those are all going to help us in the future. Hopefully, schools will not be as overcrowded as they used to be, that there'll be enough social distancing, etc., in schools, and that is going to be ongoing, hopefully. One of the things that we have found is that um, we don't see as many viral illnesses. So, for example, the influenza, we usually have a lot of influenza deaths during the winter months. We haven't seen that. The RSV virus that I was talking about, we haven't seen that. So, all the habits that we're doing to avoid coronaviruses is helping prevent other viruses that can lead to morbidity, and that's hopefully we can learn from that. Um, I think the vaccines are important. It's possible that we may need to vaccinate with the COVID vaccine every year. It's something that we're still learning. Um, but the future is going to be brighter, and I'm hoping that we learn to appreciate everybody, like what you were saying with the respiratory therapists or the janitors, etc., because we're all one community and we have to appreciate each other.
Talk to some 18-year-old little girl that's thinking about going into medicine.
Um, Medicine is difficult. Medical school is difficult. It's expensive, but it opens a lot of doors. You learn a lot of basic sciences, pharmacology, biochemistry, biology, etc., and all that helps you. And this just shows you that medicine is just not a doctor seeing you in the office. There's a lot of stuff that you can do: research in basic science, clinical research, different specialties. Like I was saying, when I finished my residency, I wanted to be either a neonatologist or an infectious diseases person, but I couldn't do it. I worked as a pediatrician for a while, and then I became a pediatric pulmonologist. But I've had the opportunities to do a lot of different things. So I take care of premature babies all the way to people in their 80s and 90s because of the different things that I've been able to learn and do. Um, my older daughter wanted to go into medicine, and she took her MCATs and everything, and then finally she decided not to go into medicine and became a lawyer. And she's sort of, I'm 64, and I still have to continuously do exams and learn things, etc. So, as a physician, there's always something that you're going to be learning. The other thing is there's so many technology developments. For example, the neonatologist. I just am always amazed. I go to the NICUs all the time, but I'm always amazed how a 500-gram baby, a baby that is born 1 pound, who doesn't have, the lungs are developing, the skin is so fragile you can barely touch it. Yet these people, the neonatologists and the nurses are able to put in IVs and allow the kids to grow. And then I see them in my office, and you see how good they are, and how you wouldn't even know that they were so small. Um, so technologies are really improving procedures, things that you can do. It's constantly evolving. So medicine allows you to constantly use your brain and learn and improve yourself and help the society as we go forward.
Okay, we're going to wrap up in just one moment. So the firm that you work with, Kidz Medical, right?
Yes.
Its specialty is for children.
Yes.
And within that, there are lots of specialties.
Yes.
Right. So if somebody wants to go into pediatrics, it could be older kids, or it could be younger kids, or little kids. Right.
Yes.
Or as they get older, maybe they want to treat some other folks. Doctor, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your service to all of us. Thank you for saving many lives and for taking care of the kids.
You're welcome.
And my regards to Dr. Tina Scott Carroll, who is our South Miami hero, for taking care of our kids in South Miami. Thank you very much, Doctor.
He's a very special person.
We are glad that you're here. And Wayne, see you later, bud. All right, folks, again, this is Live with Miami's Community News. And if somebody wants to look you up, spell your name so they know how to look you up. Spell it.
My last name is M-A, V as in Victor, U, N as in Nancy, D as in dog, A as in apple.
You'll find her all over the internet, folks.
And there are very few Mavundas around.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about which one because we got it down pat. Folks, thanks very much for joining us. And again, this is Live with Miami's Community